and welcome to this episode of From the Rubble, which is my post-apocalyptic Let's Play. And we're still very, very early in this series, so a brief recap. I awoke from a 200-year or 100-year sleep to find my bunker was flooded, and when it came to the surface, this is what I found. I found a ruined landscape, and the entrance of my bunker was just sitting out here in the middle of a little lake. Since then, I've taken measures to expand the island, start some measures toward self-sufficiency, grow my own food, and that's all important because this is a world where we kind of added some mods to make things a bit more hostile than what I'm normally used to, and that's fine. But for this episode, what I intend to do is I want to basically replace the current entrance of the bunker. I want to remove it and set the new entrance here, which is basically the center of the game world, 0-0. And of course, one of the fundamental no-nos of Minecraft is you never dig straight down. And of course, right now I'm digging straight down. The only reason I'm doing this is because I know where I'm going, right? I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to drop in a pit of lava or a giant cave system or anything like that. I'm going to plop down into the bedroom or the sleeping room of my bunker. And there you go. So we will go ahead and this will be the new entrance. So I want something here that I can put ladders on, and eventually we'll make it more formal and nice, even though that will be a temporary thing because I have a plan, as I always do, for something much more practical and upscale. Not upscale particularly in terms of like fancy or high class, but more like upscale as in more than one person at a time can climb up a ladder. And you'll have to excuse the warning. So I mentioned it in a community post recently, but the long story is that I use Distant Horizons. I love Distant Horizons. Distant Horizons is awesome. It's literally a game changer. And back in the early summer, they came up with what they called the final version of Distant Horizons for solo play, right? So that was awesome, but it required a certain version of Iris. Now, Iris is Fabric, and I run on Forge, so I need a certain version of Oculus, which is the Forge fork of Iris, and it wasn't coming. It was all through the summer and all through the fall, the updated Oculus that would enable me to use the latest features of Distant Horizons just wasn't there, and this causes problems, right? Now, just before Christmas, I got an awesome Christmas gift where they updated Oculus to the latest version of Iris. So now Oculus and Distant Horizons play well together, and freedom in the galaxy, right? Except it didn't work for me. It turns out that it would always crash my system, and if I set up a basic profile that had just the basics to run the game and Oculus and Distant Horizons, it actually worked fine. But when I ran it in my established worlds with all those mods, it crashed. And oh boy, it took me a while to do the troubleshooting, but I found that it was the Iris flywheel compat that was causing problems. And that's very necessary for worlds like mine that rely heavily on on the Create mod. So I was stuck. I've been running with a old version of Oculus and Distant Horizons for some time now, and it worked, but I mean, it was suboptimal. Fast forward to this week, where I figured out that it, well, I already knew that it was the flywheel compat, but what I figured out was that in CurseForge, of course, you can have it. You can set your updates to include basically any update or only official releases, and by default, I think it chooses only official releases. And I just got curious as to when the last release was for Oculus, and when I popped my head in there, I found that there was, the last release was the one I was running, but there had been 3 beta releases since then. And sure enough, I grabbed the latest beta release, and now all Distant Horizons, Oculus, and Medium, everything's working fine, and the flywheel compat too. So that's what we have now. That's what we have here. But now what you're seeing is I've been in these worlds for a while, and I mean, Distant Horizons has been running, but Distant Horizons was turned way down, and now I can turn it up a bit, and I kind of have, but it's got a lot of backlog. It's a huge amount of backlog, so it's gonna be kind of quirky for a while, partly as it tries to catch up on the workload, and partly as I get used to what the settings should be, because we're in uncharted territory. But so far, I'm more than happy with the results. I think it's totally worth it, and I'm excited to where we'll be in maybe a few weeks, right? Just a few hours in game will really help bring everything literally into focus. So there you go, and that's what that's all about. Now, these blocks are part of my underground bunker. My underground bunker was supplied to us courtesy of the Underground Bunkers mod, which is cleverly named. And it's these bunkers are made up primarily of 3 types of blocks. There's these bunkers steel, which uses iron and something else I don't remember off the top of my head, but and it's kind of a cool looking construction block. The bad news is once you convert it to bunker steel, you can't do anything with the bunker steel except build, right? You can make slabs, you can make blocks, that's it. The other main building block in these bunkers is light gray concrete. That's great, because I plan to use a lot of light gray concrete in my own construction here. That's a very modern building material, so it fits perfect. Relatively easy to produce, so supply problem shouldn't be a problem, and we'll run with that. And then the third type of block, which you may have seen in the previous, or may have noticed in the previous episodes, is a kind of grate. It's a hollow block, so it can get waterlogged, and it's there to kind of show like a vent or a grate or a drain. And so they're pretty cool and useful, and those are all great. You can use all of those to build modern looking interiors, and we will to a certain extent. And I do know that in this game world there are other bunkers besides mine, so those will be a source of more bunker steel. But in the end, I don't think I'll be able to easily find or even make enough bunker steel as a primary building block in my ultimate base construction. So the bunker steel will be used for things like doorways and such, but most of the actual structure will be based on light gray concrete. And not just straight light gray concrete blocks, but actually I have the chipped mod, which gives me a whole bunch of varieties of light gray concrete blocks. So using that mod, I can then simulate all sorts of different wall textures, grates, drains, stuff like that. And so I'm really looking forward to it because, this is out of my 3 Minecraft Let's Play series. I have one that's steampunky, and so, that's very much a Victorian Edwardian vibe. Lots of bricks and wrought iron and that type of stuff. And then, of course, there's Greifenhorst, which is my fantasy medieval one, and that's, stones and wood, all the typical primitive materials. So this is my one chance at a more modern world. And what's more, too, is, I've been playing Minecraft for years and years and years, but they were all, especially during unmodded, right? There was my options for making a modern anything was pretty limited. So I've built castles and medieval villages time and time again. So this is actually exciting for me because it's not entirely uncharted territory, but it's pretty close, right? And so I'm looking forward to that. And I guess that's all the news that isn't. Now, you may have noticed that I left this particular shaft open to the sky. And there is a method to my madness, because yes, I do want to close that big gaping hole so I, or whatever else, doesn't fall down the hole. However, the reason I'm keeping it open is it's a lot. I don't have the materials to make a clock yet. So I need to, if I want to know it's night or not, I gotta just look up. And if I seal off that that hole up there, what I'm afraid will happen is that I won't notice it's night, and monsters will spawn on my island, unbeknownst to me. And then when I pop out my head from the shaft like a prairie dog, I might have it blown clean off by a creeper or whatever. So I want to know when it's night so that I can take a quick snooze, prevent the monsters from spawning, at least until I can get my island properly fortified and lit up. And then they can spawn all they want, and I'll deal with them from a position of advantage. Because, when I was younger, I was all for the challenge and the thrill of, fighting against the odds and all that. Yeah, I'm not young and courageous anymore. I'm old and tired and and a little bit wiser, I would think. So if I can, set things up to my advantage and then take advantage of my advantage, yeah, you betcha. That's the way we're doing this. No unnecessary risks unless I'm in a screwy mood. And that's entirely possible because, as you may know, I often play these at night after the rest of the family has gone to bed, and it's late and I'm tired, and I'm usually caffeinated or over caffeinated, and that all leads to a very unpredictable mix of attitudes, thought processes, what have you. Who knows what I will do at that point. Tin ore. So, of course, I have the thermal series involved here. So, and this is, I have done some play testing, to lead up to this. So, I have a vague idea of at least some of the more basic ores that are brought to us from the thermal series. But, I'm just not all that familiar with all of them. And so this is going to be a learning experience for me as I learn what they are, where they come from, how to use them. I do know enough that, in vanilla and most modded Minecraft situations, you get your ores and you pretty much process your ores into ingots as soon as you can, right? And then from once they're ingots, that's when the magic happens. But you can certainly do that with the thermal series. However, it's a lot easier and therefore more advantageous to actually hold on to your ores and process them through a pulverizer, and then using the powder, you can more easily make a number of alloys and such. And not only that, you're not entirely sure what alloy you're going to need at a given time, so you really don't want to mix up a bunch of alloys ahead of time either, right? Like normally copper's not a problem because you've got copper coming out of yours, but all the others, you don't know. Maybe I want straight tin, or maybe I'm going to want to combine the tin with something else. So I don't smelt it all right away. I want to wait until I'm ready and I know exactly what I want to use it for. Later on, and I haven't got to this part. This part I just know about from reading and watching videos. I know that the thermal series has upgrades and such for your machines where you can actually increase the amount of metal, of processed metal you get from ores by upgrading your machines, right? And then processing the ores. So that's another reason you want to kind of hold off from processing stuff till you need it, because eventually when you get your stuff all ubered up, then you can make quite a profit on the ores you've harvested. So there you go. And I'm excited by this. It was interesting because I think I've talked about this a while ago, but it's worth mentioning here. In modded Minecraft, technology mods are a pretty popular segment of modded Minecraft, and it certainly is part of what has attracted me. Now, in the cases of steampunk and the fantasy worlds, your opportunities for technology that makes sense are somewhat limited, especially for the fantasy world. And I've gone on the record saying I love Create, and I think Create is appropriate for pretty much any world that's out there, even a medieval or fantasy world, because in the early Middle Ages we developed windmills, right? And water wheels have been around even longer, and they used that to grind corn and stuff. So yeah, I would use Create to create a railroad in a medieval world, but maybe in a fantasy world, I don't know, certainly in a steampunk world. But that was kind of the extent of my technology, right? Now and the fantasy world, I take it a step further, because Ars Nouveau it's a magic mod, but it has technology aspects to it. So that builds upon what I have there. That's good. But here, we're talking about, the post-modern world. Post-apocalyptic, in fact, right? So there was a modern world with many of the things that we would recognize as familiar, based on the world we live in. And it's all been blown away. But the vestiges of it remain. And so I was looking for a technology mod that would give me something more than rotational power. We're talking about RF, which is essentially like electricity, and industrial type machinery. Now, I did think very seriously about immersive engineering. I experimented with that in Griffin Manor for a while, but I ultimately decided not to go that route, because I think it's still I think it's along the right lines, but I think it's still a little too outdated, right? I mean, not in the technology of the mod itself, but rather what the technology that the mod hopes to emulate, right? I think it still looks a little too steampunky for this world. So I was looking for something more modern. And, I was looking at Mechanism and all that jazz. But eventually I settled on the Thermal series, obviously, because I think it's really well thought out. And there's some irony here, because I think their modular approach, right? They have a mod series, and you can get all you only get the pieces of the mod that you want, and I love that approach. I think that's a brilliant way to approach it. The irony is that I took all the pieces. I think there's the one piece I didn't take was like thermal rails or locomotion or whatever they call it, because I have the create mod, and I will definitely use the train functionality, the train bits for that. I love create trains. I love to create trains. But and that's true even in the fantasy world. I mean, I have create in Greifenhorst, and I actually have the creates Steam and Rails mod, because they have a thing called Phantom Track. And with Phantom Track, you can essentially lay down track and run trains, but the Phantom Track's invisible, so you can make the train look like anything, and then it looks like you have some completely other different type of vehicle working like a train does, but since the tracks are invisible, there's no limit onto where or how you run this thing. So you can run the tracks underwater, and you could build submarines, or you can run them just under the surface, and you can build ships that work like a train, but they look like a ship. You can build the tracks through the air, and you can make airships or whatever. And so and I'm going to do that in both New Londinium and Greifenhorst. Now, I can certainly do it here, but here I can also just run trains. Because, and I fully intend to. Now, the Lost Cities mod, it actually builds ruined subway tunnels. And, we've actually I think, tapped into one of those when I was trying to get a backpack from the Musical Skeleton last time. But I don't think the tunnel's quite big enough for what I have in mind, which is fine. It's a good starting point. But, their subways are basically mine carts, right? And, mine cart rails. And that's not going to cut it. Not for me. So, but I do like it. I do know that they've built essentially like rail stations where the mine carts, the mine track will come up to the surface to platforms. And I think that's going to be a great starting point, right? So now I noticed it was getting dark upstairs, and I want to, like I said, I'm not really in a position. I don't have any armor, so I have a stone sword, so I'm not in a good position to defend myself. I'm certainly not in a strong position to defend myself against the odds that I set up for myself in this world. So at this point, I'm not quite eager to pick a fight, and so when it comes time to nap, you bet your sweet Pippi, I'm napping, baby. Reset to the day. Now, once we get some armor, we'll and better yet, once we get some walls, we'll see about changing that. But for right now, yes, I am a frightened refugee out of time. Let's face it. If you were in a situation in your life, you got basically a stone sword and you're running around in your pajamas, you're not going to be taking on hordes of zombies and skeletons and things that go boom. So Okay, now we are in the straw biz. That straw, of course, we will use for a number of things, including and probably mostly rich soil. And of course, having access to modern technology, I have a number of options available to me when the time comes for automated farming. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to approach that. I know how I would do it back in the days of, well, not back in the days of, but with my steampunk world, and I know how I would do it with Greifenhorst. I think I have too much wall here. I want, because we're on the edge here, we're not going to, not the corner. I want to extend this out. Yeah, I know how I would do it there, but here, you know, I have some different options. I can, of course, do the create option. That works. But, you know, the thermal series has some basically machines that you could produce agricultural crops and trees without actually having the agricultural crops and trees. It's certainly compact, and as far as a drain on my FPS, I don't think it's really busy in terms of graphics, so I'm okay with that. You know, that might be a good option, but on the other hand, it's also very compact, right? So you can set stuff up in such a way that you're growing all sorts of different crops in a small space. But then again, I don't know. I want to go that route, and probably the biggest concern I have with that is each one of those machines is going to require power, and I don't know yet, but I think it might require fertilizer. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of the thermal series fertilizer, but if it requires fertilizer, well, then that means I would have to come up with a supply line, an automated production line for the fertilizer, which isn't a problem. But, you know, if we're talking in this modern world, I've got at least 20 or 30 tree types, and I've got all the different types of crops because, you know, I have the Farmer's Delight plus most of its add-ons. I have the Thermal series, which has a bunch of its crops. You have Vanilla Minecraft, which has its crops. You have the Let's Do series, which has its crops. And there's a handful of others out there that bring their own crops to the table. And so that's a lot of machines. That's going to be a lot of fertilizer. And I still don't even know how to make the required fertilizer if it's required. So I don't know what's involved, right? I don't want this to be, you know, from the fertilizer. I want it to be, you know, other stuff as well. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm still very much learning it. Right now, on the technology side, I have a few things I'm kicking around in my head. So one of the first things I want to do, I'm growing flax now. With flax, I can make string. With string, I can make wool. So I have the ability to make wool. And so I think a really good chance for energy production and therefore automation at this stage of the game is the windmill from Create, right? So that's awesome. And that actually generates quite a bit of energy. The problem I have is before I can use windmills to generate forage energy, I'm going to need to make an alternator. Now, I have an alternator recipe, but I looked at it recently, and the parts aren't impossible to get. They're not, I'm not going to have to kill the Ender Dragon before I get to that stuff. But it does require a mechanical crafter. To get to the mechanical crafter, there's a number of stages in the create mod I'm going to have to go through, including, stamping and all that jazz. So it's not a super quick and easy way to get there. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know what that was that I just saw fly off. It looked like a bat, but it just pretty much disappeared. Didn't act like a bat. Anyway, I don't know where it went either. So I think for the short term, what's probably going to happen is that the technology will be heavily based on Create and what's available through Create and its add-ons that I have loaded. And then we'll start to transition to the Thermal series. However, with that said, there are the Create series has some machines. I don't know what they technically call them, but there are some machines you can create, and they do stuff for you without power, right? And one of the ones that I'm interested in is called, pretty sure it's called the Aquatic Entangler. And what that does is essentially it's a fishing machine, right? You set this thing up, and depending on whether you give it any inputs, it catches fish, right? And doesn't use power, just sits in the water, does its thing, and you come by and collect the reward. So that is an early game goal of mine, and I'm looking forward to that too, because one of the things that kind of caught me off guard is I really love the Farmer's Delight mod, and I love the Delightful mod, which was an add-on for Farmer's Delight. And between those two, there is a thing called a chicken sandwich. Actually, I think chicken sandwich is just straight Farmer's Delight even. And the chicken sandwich uses bread, carrots, cabbage, and chicken. And you can make this delectable sandwich that really satisfies your hunger for a long time. I love those things. And you can stack them in stacks of 64. So those things are awesome. But that sandwich is pretty much the only sandwich you can do that with, right? There's no, with the mods mentioned, there's no roast beef sandwich or pork sandwich or whatever. And that kind of drives me nuts. And the reason I thought about this is because with the fish entangler, why isn't there a fish sandwich, right? So with that in mind, I created a fish sandwich. It's part of my actually I made it part of all the mods, the home brewed mods for my Let's Play series. So there's a fish sandwich in Greifenhorst, there's a fish sandwich in New Londinium, and there's a fish sandwich here. So getting back to that entangler, if I can get the entangler going, I've got fish, because I have Farmer's Delight and Aquaculture 2. I can fillet those puppies, I can cook the fillets, and from those I basically replicated the chicken recipe, but to use the cooked fish fillets instead. So then I can create a mess of fish sandwiches, which is A, making me hungry, and B, would set me up for long-term success. And then of course we can get into fancier foods and stuff, to break the monotony, but that would be a good long-term energy solution for not the technology for me, but that's where I'm headed with this. Flax seeds for thermal cultivation. So I'm assuming their flax seeds are like the flax seeds that I'm already growing from the supplementaries mod, which is, you grow them and then you harvest them, and then you can process the flax into string. So good stuff. And as you can see, I grabbed for wheat because I want to take a visit up to our little our weird little cow building. I don't know what else to call it. Our little ruined building that the cows have kind of made a nest out of, if that's the right term. And so I like leaving them in there because they're not going anywhere and they're safe and protected from most things. So, you know, it's just kind of a win-win-win situation. And with 4 cows up there, if I feed all 4 cows, I will get 2 babies, which means I can harvest 2 of the adult cows right away. And all of that is in anticipation of getting enough leather to make a backpack, because not only am I armorless, not only am I running around here with an iron sword that's unenchanted, I don't have a backpack. You know, what I can fit in my inventory is what I can carry. That's it. And for vanilla Minecraft, that's fine. But this is modded Minecraft, where I have, you know, like I said, you know, more than 20 different tree types alone, including leaves, logs, planks, the whole shebang. And don't even get me started on the different foods available, the ores available, etc., etc. So it's feeding time at the zoo. I only brought 4. I don't want to accidentally feed the sheep. Okay, the babies are here. And I hate to do this to you guys, but it is what it is. I got 4 steaks and no leather. But I still have 4 cows, so I'll come back again and rinse, lather, repeat. Or lather, rinse, repeat. That's what it is. You know, now that I'm up here, maybe I can grab some material, right? This is a good place to get dirt and stone. The stone's important because, you know, it contains hidden minerals that I need to get a hold of sooner rather than later. So to also get a nice view from up here, it is triggering a mild anxiety reaction. I have a little bit of a heights phobia, but you know, I do know it's Minecraft. If I fall, I won't get real hurt. My Minecraft character might be deader than a doornail, but I mean, it's not real death. And let's take a moment for a Kodak moment. You can already see the distant horizons is doing its thing, so I'm able to see a little bit past my immediate render distance. But it's going to take some time for it to fully flesh in. Even with the latest edition. Plus, I have a huge backlog. And it's trying to play catch up. So, we'll get there. It's like a fine wine. It will age and be better. I'm not necessarily like a fine wine. I'm aging, but I don't know if I'm getting better. Ooh. Little drop. pretty much... I'm going to need to drop some stuff off sooner or later. Sooner, I guess. Okay, when you hear somebody having an asthma attack like that, it means there is a monster. Is this? I thought it was just humanoid monsters. Okay, that's that's my first monster in this world. Okay, this is what, 3 episodes in. Anyhow, when you hear somebody having an asthma attack, I guess it can be a spider, but it is almost always a skeleton, zombie, or creeper, and they're aware of my presence. And they're aware of my presence because in this game in this world, with the mods I've running, they can hear actions. Not quite as bad as the warden, but close, very close. So, almost anything you do in the game can be heard by them, and it will attract their attention. So they don't need to see you to come after you. They just need to hear you. Of course, if they see you, that'll do it too. I do like this area. I mean, I think this would be a cool area to hang out, like, even in real life, right? Like the island here, you could be made into, like, a park, you know? And then you have more parkland on the other side of the lake, build a bridge. I guess you could have boats, but that'd be too expensive to operate. Just a bridge will do it. I love parks. Always have. Always have. When I was a kid growing up in Southern California, at that time, there were still a lot of orange groves in the area. Relatively close to me. I mean, there's orange groves within a couple miles of my house. But the area I lived in had been built of solid residential, like most of Southern California. And so I didn't have like a forest area or a wild area I could play in. I was a little jealous of some of my cousins, like my cousin David. His family lived in near LA, closer to LA, right? They lived in El Monte and Baldwin Park, and in both those cases they lived close enough to yes, a concrete riverbed, but still it still had some elements of nature that they could go to and experience that I didn't have access to. So for me, it was all about the parks or school campuses, right? Because they had a playground, grass, that type of stuff. And whenever I got the opportunity to go to a park, the more overgrown and green it was, the more I enjoyed it, because that's in my bones. You know, I was born in Montana, and I've had ancestors roaming the plains of the United States and Canada for millennia. So I hadn't seen that for a while. I thought we were past it. Okay. Anyway, so I do love the great outdoors and nature. I love that stuff. But like I said, my access to it at an early age was pretty limited. So parks was it, right? And that's why I really have a deep love for parks. Always have. Probably always will. In fact, it was interesting because when my girls were born, you know, where we live now, there is access to green spaces and nature within walking distance. But when they were very young, obviously I'm not going to let 2 or 3-year-old walk out into the woods by themselves. So we spent a lot of time in parks, and it was me, right? You should know by now how I work. So I had an Excel spreadsheet, and I had different features of the parks laid out, and when we visited them last, wanted to make sure we hit them all, and try a new park every once in a while, add to the list. Oh, it was awesome. Anyhow, I don't know where I was headed with all that, but this would make an awesome park. Of course, eventually, I spent some time in real places with real wilderness, right? So when I moved away from Southern California, the first time I moved to England, but that was courtesy of the Air Force. The second time I moved away from California, that was completely by my choice, and I moved initially to Idaho, but I was just over the border from Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and after a couple months, I moved to Jackson itself, and I spent the better part of 2 years there, and oh man, I did a lot of camping, did a lot of hiking. It is a fabulous place to be, all 4 seasons, so yeah, it gets cold in the winter and there's snow, but I'm not a skier, not a snowboarder, but I did enjoy spending time in the snow. More importantly, I enjoyed time out of the snow, being cozy in my house, playing computer games, right? That always cracked me up, because people would say, oh, you lived in Jackson because you're a skier. No. And they said, snowboarder? No. Snowmobiler? No. Then why would you be in Jackson in the winter? And I said, A, because I live there, but B, because it's fantastic computer game playing weather. The thing is I remember when I left California the final time, and I moved, and then people say, well, where'd you come from? I said, California. He says, why did you leave California? It's perfect. And I'm like, it definitely has advantages, but it's not perfect, right? And they said, but you moved away from the beach. I go, yes, and I love the beach, but I also remembered that when I left, I realized that despite the fact that I was less than 5 miles from the beach, I hadn't gone to the beach for the last 3 years, right? And it was kind of one of those things, the realization that when something is that available to you, you come to take it for granted, or you do take advantage of it until you're kind of sick of it, and it's no special deal anymore. So now when we do go back to California on vacation or whatever, oh yeah, you bet, we go to the beach and it's fun, and I fully appreciate it again. But that's because it's special again. So anyway, I'm still getting a little latency here, thanks to distant horizons. So what I've done is the old entry chamber I've expanded a bit, and I'm going to make into the new bed chamber, because you don't want to have, you want to be taking a nap or sleeping at night and having people coming and going through the bunker right through your bedroom, right? I wouldn't, even though I was in the military, I learned to sleep through anything. So and I'm kind of emulating the build style they have here, but I'm also playing it by ear a bit here. Guess I could have done that in the first place. Huh. There we go. slowly but surely it's getting there. Now, I know I'm going to a lot of trouble here to kind of have something that looks nice, but I actually consider this a very temporary building, or a very temporary build. Huh. I wonder what is... I mean, we were fine, and now it's warning again, and what happened all of a sudden to send it... I don't know. Diamond. I know I'm kind of going through a little bit of trouble for what for most people would be a temporary structure, and there's two things I want to say there. One, well, which one do I start with? One, let me just talk about my play style. I mean, if you've been watching me, you kind of figured out that this isn't a rush, right? This is not like an American Gladiators event and I'm working against a clock or another team or whatever. I'm here to have fun. I'm just doing my thing, right? So I do things because I want to do them. That's all there is to it. Now, why do I want to do it this way? What is it that I'm trying to do? Well, again, if I'm not in a big rush or anything, I don't have to do this in the absolutely most efficient way. If I'm here to have fun, then it's really about what gives me the most fun. And in this case, building these temporary structures give me fun because I discovered a long time ago that one of the reasons I'm a builder in games is that I'm building environments, places, and experiences that I would want to live in or experience firsthand in real life, right? So I'm doing this, I'm making this bed chamber and I'm making it the way it is because I wouldn't normally want to have just a cot in any old spot, but rather I would like to have my designated bed space in a proper chamber, not just some dirt cube. And so that's why I'm doing that, right? That's how I would want to live it or play it. So now I am taking a little bit of a shortcut because normally I would hollow everything out and then build it complete. But like where these beams stick out from the wall, there would be a proper block of something behind them. But since this is truly temporary, I only hollowed out the blocks that I need to put something that will show. So that coal on the left and the andesite on the right there, that's gonna stay for now. But when I go to build a permanent structure, I will make sure that I have proper external walls everywhere. And that's not really because I think that's the type of world I would want to live in. In that case, that's just pure OCD. It just bugs me otherwise. I guess it should bug me now, and maybe it will, but at the moment it doesn't seem to be causing any heartache. I am glad, though, that there's plenty of andesite here, which is useful. I mean, we're going to need this stuff right away. Well, soon. Andesite is a key ingredient in the technology from the crate mod. So, if you have crate, especially if you're going to use the crate mod a lot, there's really no such thing as too much andesite. I know there's times that I've even had to resort to making extra andesite with cobblestone and diorite because that's how important andesite is in the crate mod. Got some goodies. Not enough redstone to do anything useful yet, but halfway there. I don't know what I'm going to do with this room yet. I don't have strong feelings about how it should look in the meanwhile, so it might stay this way for a while. I do know that I will want to take the new entrance and actually mine some of that out and put in like bunker steel walls, right? Which, looking at the clock, I think we'll have to wait for next time, but we're getting there. And I was thinking about this just the other day. You know, there's literally hundreds of millions of people who play Minecraft or have played Minecraft, and they all play it for different reasons, and they play it in different ways, and what have you. I've noticed that, you know, over the years, there's different like styles of play that have kind of come. Huh, I'm missing half. Oh, there it is. That have come into existence with, you know, like genres, right? And while I don't consider what I do to fit in any one genre, I think what I do kind of falls into multiple genres. I think the style that I tend to gravitate toward most is this like cozy style, right? Cozy builds, cozy worlds. And you know, I'm not out there making a world of a flower garden and 2 kittens and we have a cup of tea. Though I do foresee some of that happening at some point, but that's not really what I'm all about. But it happens. But really, going back to what I said a minute ago, right, is I think what attracts me to building in games like this is that I'm building worlds and experiences that I would want to experience. And despite the fact that I have a YouTube channel and hundreds of videos, well, almost 100 videos now, but I'm a bit of an introvert, right? I am a bit of a homebody. I mean, I do love to travel. I do love to meet people and stuff. But then I do love going home and locking the door and putting the kettle on, kicking up my feet, and just, you know, enjoy some time by the fire. I'm cool for that too. So there'll be elements of that. But I even when I go looking for YouTube videos to watch myself, Minecraft videos. Yeah, see, the mechanical crafter is, I need to get to that to make the inductor. So it's going to take a little bit longer than I would have hoped, but oh well. But I find that I gravitate toward the cozy builders, right? And I prefer cozy survival builders. So I want them to put in the time to gather or grow the resources and then make something clean, comfortable, pretty, whatever, from that. So there you go. There you go. And I suspect that if I was to sit down and talk to any of those content creators, I'd probably find that obviously there's differences, but I think there would be a whole lot of important similarities between us, you know, in terms of what motivates us, how we like to operate, what's important to us, stuff like that. And I think this is pretty close to done for now. I mean, we don't have any big old bunker entrance sticking up above the ground. I don't have a useful wall yet. I mean, it takes nothing to walk around the end of the edge of the wall, but we are getting there. And so I'm thinking, the next step would be to work on expanding the island more and completing the fortifying wall, but also collecting the materials necessary to start building the windmill and working my way through the create technology tree, on my way to the thermal technology tree, and some simple automation to help. But also a suit of armor. I need armor and maybe a better weapon. So I hope you come back for that. I hope you enjoyed your time here today. And I hope this finds you and yours in good health, good spirits, and perhaps a touch of good fortune. Cheers.